terror, where the scientific and the terrifying emerge.
Is er dan echt niks meer echt?
Jawel, de nieuwe Venco dropstaaf. Echte drop voor de echte stevige trek.
Imagine a place feared by men the world over. A land of danger and terror. All within the mind of a child. Travel to the treacherous Monster Island. See cataclysmic confrontations as Godzilla tackles a host of motley mutants. Who dares to oppose Godzilla? Experience true adventure in Godzilla's Revenge.
近頃主人の帰りがなんだか早いんです。
あ、小島さん、
番組録画して自分だけのカラオケテープ作ったりして。
日本全国津々ラララ、今度は歌える G ビデオラララ
新登場。
すごい簡単、気持ちいい。
Hitachi.
Damn Godzilla. You're mistaken if you think your powers are a match for Mechagodzilla.
It's all about the panties, baby.
wannabe hackers, code crackers, slackers, wasting time with all the chat room yackers. 9 to 5 chilling at Hewlett Packard, working at a desk with a dumb little placard. Yeah, paying the bills with my mad programming skills, defragging my hard drive for thrills. I got me 100 gigabytes of RAM. I never feed trolls and I don't read spam. Install the T1 line in my house. Always at my PC, double clicking on my Miz-House. Upgrade my system at least twice a day. I'm strictly plug and play. I ain't afraid of Y2K. I'm down with Bill Gates, I call him money for short. I phone him up at home and I make him do my tech support. It's all about the Pentium. What? You gotta be the dumbest newbie I've ever seen. You've got whiteout all over your screen. You think your Commodore 64 is really neato? What kind of chip you got in there? A Dorito? You're using a 286? Don't make me laugh. Your Windows boots up in what, a day and a half? You could back up your whole hard drive on a floppy diskette. You're the biggest joke on the internet. Your database is a disaster. You're waxing your modem, trying to make it go faster. Hey fella, I bet you're still living in your parents' cellar, downloading pictures of Sarah Michelle Gellar and posting me too like some brain dead AOLer. I should do the world a favor and cap you like old Yeller. You're just about as useless as JPEGs to Helen Keller. Crew, huh? Rule cyberspace and crunch numbers like I do. They call me the king of the spreadsheets. Got them all printed out on my bed sheets. My new computer's got the clocks, it rocked, but it was obsolete before I opened the box. You say you've had your desktop for over a week? Throw that junk away, man, it's an antique. Your laptop is a month old? Well, that's great. If you could use a nice heavy paperweight. My digital media is right protected. Every file inspected, no viruses detected. I beta tested every operating system. Gave props to some and others I dissed them. While your computer's crashing, mine's multitasking. It does all my work without me even asking. Got a flat screen monitor 40 inches wide. I believe that yours says Etch-a-Sketch on the side. In a 32-bit world, you're a 2-bit user. You've got your own news group, all total loser. Your motherboard melts when you try to send a fax. Where'd you get your CPU in a box of Cracker Jacks? Play me online, well you know that I'll beat you. If I ever meet you, I'll control all the leech you.
I can't believe it. The magnificent machine, Mechagodzilla, has been defeated.
It was in 1954, just less than a decade after the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in World War II. The first Godzilla film was very serious in tone, and Godzilla himself was a symbol of nuclear destruction. After all, this is a movie made by people who actually experienced such a threat firsthand. The suggested origin of Godzilla is that he was created from nuclear radiation. His species has been debated for years, but most agree that he is a cross between a Tyrannosaurus rex and a Stegosaurus because of the dorsal spines on his back. As for the name, in Japan he's called Godzilla, which is a combination of the Japanese words gorilla and whale. Gorilla and whale, huh? Well, that's kind of different than a T-Rex and Stegosaur. Well, what were they, tripping on acid? But no, the real reason he got his name was because there was a big tough guy working at the studio and his nickname was Godzilla. So producer Tomoyuki Tanaki decided to use the name. So how would you feel if a giant fire-breathing monster was named after you? I don't know, but I think it'd be pretty awesome. Now, it's probably no mystery that this monster is a guy in a rubber suit, but what most people don't know is how horrible and infamous it was to be the guy inside. First of all, you couldn't see anything. Second, it was hard to move, and so hot inside that the actor actually passed out. Now, about Godzilla's trademark roar, you'd never guess. It was the sound of a leather glove being rubbed against a stringed instrument, a bass of some sort, I think. So overall, this is a pretty good monster movie. Godzilla looks scary in black and white, and the music and gritty cinematography create a foreboding mood. Shots of people crushed under rubble and dying in the hospital are real disturbing, and the choir of girls singing in despair kind of bothers me. They don't treat it like a B-movie, they treat it like it's a real disaster. Now, because Americans tend to dislike foreign films, when it came out here in the US, they chopped the movie down and filmed new scenes with Steve Martin. No, not that Steve Martin, but a character, a journalist named Steve Martin, played by Raymond Burr. Burr had recently played a villain in Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window and would later be famous as Perry Mason. Now, he does a good job in this flick, but the way they use him is to have him narrate over most of the film, describing what's happening.
I can hardly believe what has just happened. Now it seems Tokyo has no defense.
It just seems like an obvious attempt to digest it all for us dumbass American audiences. Now, I could probably talk about this movie for another hour, but we got 28 more to go, so it's time to move on. In the words of Joe Bob, 4 stars, check it out.
Tons of animal fury leap from the screen.
Hey, look!
C8. See Giant Ape defy jaws of great white shark. See Giant Ape vanquish monster reptile. See Ocean Liner demolished. See Metropolis fight to survive flaming holocaust. See helpless beauty in embrace of 36-foot monster. C8.
Show's about to start. See Goliath, the most infernal beast that man has ever seen. The beast who lives only to kill.
More dangerous than a maddened, caged-up jungle beast is the emotional conflict behind the scenes of big-time circus life. For with all its exciting adventure, gaiety and color, glitter and glamour, it is the vortex of love and jealousy that inevitably lead to violence and death.
Closing this park down until further notice.
What good is that going to do?
All I know is a couple of gorillas around here, and one of them is a killer.
Joey, we've got to be very careful.
Yeah. Do you think he'd try anything with the act on?
You saw how he tried to kill me. But you're too jealous to have anybody come near me.
I'm only warning you.
You really ought to warn him. About how accidents happen to partners.
Laverne, don't drop!
Cinemassacre's Monster Madness. It's about time King Kong gets a Monster Madness. I'm ready to praise the everlasting shit out of his big hairy ass. I can't possibly praise this film enough. There's no way I can do it justice. So what, should I talk about the plot? Well, just for the hell of it, here's the gist. Carl Denham's a filmmaker on a voyage to Skull Island, an uncharted mystical land where prehistoric creatures run amok. He brings with him a young lady named Ann Darrow, who he casts as the lead actress. But the natives of the island capture her as a sacrifice to their god, the giant ape Kong. But Kong finds a unique interest in her and carries her off into the jungle. Denham and his crew venture in to get her back. In the end, Kong's captured and brought to New York City, where he escapes, retrieves Anne, and climbs the Empire State Building in one of the most iconic finales of all time. This is the stuff in which legends are born. I saw it when I was a little kid, and I was never the same after it. I found out later that I was not alone. It seems every filmmaker from Ray Harryhausen to Peter Jackson was inspired by it as well. And I saw it in the 80s. I can't even imagine how revolutionary it was back in 1933. Everything about it is entertaining. The jungle has such a magical quality. I love staring into the background, just knowing that all that stuff was crafted by hand. But the more times I see it and the more I analyze it, the more I fall in love with this movie. I highly recommend getting the double DVD release. On the second disc, there's a 7-part documentary detailing the making of Kong. As you probably know, King Kong and all the dinosaurs are stop motion, but it's hard to imagine the hard work that went into it. To animate 1 minute's worth of film could have taken 150 hours. And to combine the live actors with the stop motion footage, they had to invent all these new techniques. Sometimes the actors were performing in front of a rear projection. Other times the two pieces of footage were composited together. And other times the scenes with the real actors were projected into the background frame by frame while the stop motion creatures were being animated around them. Also, there were full-size parts of Kong, such as the hand, the face, and the feet. For example, the scenes where Kong's stomping people in the ground or putting them in his mouth. There's also a great moment on the DVD in which Peter Jackson and company recreate one of the movie's lost sequences, the spider pit scene, using the same crude techniques. These modern filmmakers found it to be a huge challenge, and that really says something. For 1933, it's just unbelievable what they accomplished. Still to this day, a lot of it's a mystery. It's not like now when a movie comes out, there's documentary footage and DVD bonus features up the ass. You know every last detail of how a movie's made. But back then, they knew better to keep a lot of it secret. It was more for the art and not just the money. Not to mention, we don't have the luxury of speaking to Willis O'Brien or any of the people associated with it. And let's not forget the sound design, which is equally one of the most important parts that make a movie. You have Kong roaring, which was a combination of different animal growls. You have a fully orchestrated musical score, and it's all blended together so well. And don't forget, this is a time when sound movies were still in their infancy. I can't think of anything that even comes close to being this groundbreaking. In film school, professors shove Citizen Kane up your ass and tell you it's the best movie ever made. Well, that too is a very monumental film, and it pioneered a lot of new techniques. But look at Kong, nearly a decade before it. Phenomenal visual effects, phenomenal soundtrack, and a timeless story of Beauty and Beast. It's an excellent film on every level. Why can't that be the best movie ever made? It shows fantasy and imagination, and that's what movies are all about. I'm bowing down and my balls are clapping.
Godzilla, blazing a trail of terror to his Japanese homeland.
Captain, water in the conning tower.
Godzilla! Roaring defiance to the only enemy on Earth strong enough to challenge him.
the unconquerable King Kong, giant gorilla god of this South Seas paradise, where sensuous maidens offer themselves in ritual sacrifice to his brute embrace.
Godzilla has a brain about this size. He is sheer brute force, while Kong is a thinking animal. His brain is considerably larger, about 10 times the size of this gorilla's skull. Being instinctive rivals, there is no doubt that they will attempt to destroy one another.
King Kong versus Godzilla, heading for their colossal collision, shattering every obstacle that stands between them in the most fantastic rampage of annihilation ever recorded on film. See King Kong stamp Tokyo into the ground, holding a beautiful girl in his grasp. See Godzilla destroy an entire army. See King Kong trapped by the blazing barrier of 1 billion volts. But nothing, nobody can stop the great showdown when King Kong and Godzilla meet to fight for survival of the fittest.
Yelling, and this is Super Scary Saturday on the Superstation. Boy, do I have something special for you today. This is the match of the century. Winners take all, loser leaves town, and there's no time limit. King Kong versus Godzilla. Let's check the tail of the tape. As you can see, I mean, the stats are fairly even. You know, Godzilla has the edge in fire breathing. But King Kong, he's got something to prove, you know, since his last appearance here in New York, where he was upset and he fell from the top. Let's get a reaction from both King Kong and Godzilla's guest manager.
Thanks, Grandpa. Let me tell you something, Michael Hayes. My man Godzilla's going to teach me how to breathe fire, and I'm going to teach him everything that the Midnight Express can do in the ring. What you got is a King Kong that's dying of old age. Godzilla's going to take it, brother.
Well, the first mistake Godzilla did was get a four-eyed sissy like you to manage him. Because you understand, the only thing Godzilla does when he gets mad is goes to Tokyo and stops on little Japanese people. King Kong has the ability to swat planes, trains, and still hold a woman in his arms. He's going to walk down Bad Street. What you think, Grandpa?
I got to get to a phone and get a hold of my booking.
It's Cinemassacre's Monster Madness Godzilla-thon. King Kong vs. Godzilla. It was simple genius to put two of the most famous monsters together in the battle of the century. It was the American monster against the Japanese monster. It was the East versus the West. And on top of that, this is also the first time both monsters appeared in color. Now, Godzilla had been in hibernation for 7 years, but Kong hadn't been in a film since 1933, and now it was 1962, so it was really about time for him to make a comeback. But realistically, well, nothing here is realistic, but if you were to compare the original Kong with Godzilla, there really wouldn't be much of a fight. Kong was about 25 feet tall, whereas Godzilla was about 167 feet tall, and if you go by the English dub of the first movie, he's 400 feet tall. Besides, regular machine gun bullets from some planes was enough to kill Kong, but Godzilla gets hit by bullets, bombs, and missiles all the time. He's indestructible. Oh, and another thing, he breathes fire, so it's really not fair. But even more hard to believe, it was originally going to be Godzilla vs. Frankenstein. So, scrapping the idea of the classic stop-motion effects, which are costly and time-consuming, Toho made Kong into a rubber suit and beefed him up to Godzilla's size. But at the end, the two monsters duke it out on the slopes of Mount Fuji. It's awesome. Kong throws rocks. Using his tail, Godzilla flips one of them back. The fire definitely poses a threat, but Kong keeps coming. He's clearly the underdog of the fight. He gets his face smashed right into a rock, and every time he gets up, Godzilla puts him back down. Then there's the drop kick, which is the only bit of stop motion in the movie. Well, it's really not a fair fight. That is until Kong gets struck by lightning. Yeah, I forgot to tell you that. Lightning makes him stronger. Another indication that he was originally meant to be Frankenstein. But anyway, this is where the fight really starts. My favorite part is when Kong takes a tree and shoves it down Godzilla's throat. That's hilarious. He should have shoved it up his ass. Then there's this part where they look like two hand puppets. It's great. Now, for years, there was a rumor that there were two endings for the film. Supposedly, in the Japanese version, Godzilla wins, and in the American version, Kong wins. This has been documented in books, and remember, this was before the internet. So, yes, as a kid, I used to go to the library and read about Godzilla. It was hard to even find a video rental store that had a copy of any of these movies. But with the advent of the internet, the truth is out. The double ending is a steaming load of bullshit. However, the film itself was altered a lot for its American release by Universal, adding scenes with American actors and recycling music from their horror classics like The Wolfman and Creature from the Black Lagoon. But anyway, who wins the fight? Well, that's up to the viewer to decide. Check it out. It's a great, fun, cheesy monster movie. Now, as much as I hate to say it, but just for technology's sake, it begs for a remake. If they would remake King Kong vs. Godzilla with love and affection for the original movie, then do it. Come on. Oh yeah. You want to know about the Frankenstein thing, right? Alright, so Willis O'Brien, the creator of the original King Kong, suggested a movie where Kong fights a monster that was created by Dr. Frankenstein by sewing together pieces of different animals. But before production, Toho decided to change Frankenstein to Godzilla. But without wasting the idea, Toho actually made Frankenstein Conquers the World, featuring a Godzilla-sized Frankenstein monster who fights another creature named Baragon. They even made a sequel called War of the Gargantuous, another cult classic about two hairy-ass monsters that fight to the death. Supposedly they spawned from pieces of the Frankenstein monster or something like that, but all references to Frankenstein were deleted in the final film. Now, the Frankenstein monster came from Germany, so I bet that it was pretty disappointing for German fans to see mention of their monster removed from the film. So, I don't know how much of this is true, but from what I've gathered, the German release of the film reinstated Frankenstein in the plot, and not only that, but in several of the Godzilla films they explain that the monsters that Godzilla fights are all created by Frankenstein. And that Jet Jaguar is actually supposed to be King Kong in a robot suit. But anyway, we got a while before we start talking about Jet Jaguar. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming, and this is just Godzilla. I'm not even going to go talk about Gamera yet or anything like that, and I could talk about this stuff for hours. I mean, I just love this shit.